today I would be giving you a little recap and overview on SDLC. So basically SDLC stands for Software Development Lifecycle. So some of you might be thinking, what is this SDLC? So basically, in every software organization, this SDLC acts as a process that is used to design, develop, and test and release software. So it helps to develop software with high quality at the shortest time and minimal cost. At the same time, it provides high business ROI, returns of investment. So obviously, in this phase that we are moving in the technology, we need to release our products at the most shortest period of time, else competitors might exceed and might also release products before us. So our main aim should be releasing software at the shortest time with minimal costs, and at the same time it should bring back a lot of business returns. So SDLC has a lot of phases, and the stages in SDLC are planning, defining, designing, building, testing, and deploying. So I would be explaining every phase a little bit in detail. The first phase is the planning phase. So in this phase, what happens is the requirements are collected. Either it can be through a Q&A session, it can be through a survey, it can be through brainstorming, it can be through anything. The requirements once collected, they have to be analyzed, and then it has to be checked for its feasibility. So what happens in this phase is the different stakeholders, the business partners, senior executives of various teams, they come together to plan out the software in terms of what type of value it's going to provide, what type of returns it's going to provide to the business, and how feasible it is. So during this phase, various factors are taken into account. Some of the factors are the resources that you have in hand. So when you get a software that has to be developed, or you plan to develop a product on its own, you need to look into the different resources that are required. It can be the expertise, or it can be the different softwares, the hardwares that are required to develop that particular software. So looking into the resources in hand is one of a clean planning technique that you can do. Another one is checking the economic feasibility. Time constraints is something else that is very important. You need to make sure that you are able to release the product at the right time, because once you exceed the deadline, then it would never bring any solution to the need of the hour. So make sure that time constraints are well planned. The next one is technical feasibility, and operational feasibility also needs to be taken into the planning phase. Apart from this, you even need to plan out the risks that you might encounter during the execution of the product on the software, or after deployment of your software. So looking into this is very important. The main aim is to build high quality software with minimal risks. Always plan out the different risks that you might encounter, so that you would have a strategic plan in order to mitigate the risks at the time of disaster. So once all this is well planned out, the requirements are then moved to the second phase, which is the defining phase. So in the defining phase, what you do is all requirements will be clearly and specifically defined. So in the forthcoming video, I would be mentioning how your requirement needs to be. Always make sure that your requirements are smart. So when I say smart, it has to be really specific. It has to be measurable, it should be attainable, it should be realistic and time bound. So when I say, for example, your requirement needs to be detailed, let me give you an example. Imagine an executive, he says, install Windows OS on all laptops. But to be more specific in this requirement, you can define it as install Windows OS version 8.1 on all laptops. So this is a very well defined requirement. So make sure your requirements are very well specific. And all requirements, how they are documented is, they are documented in the SSD, which is called as a software specification document. This is done in the traditional style. But when you look into Agile, you might come across user stories, use cases, etc. that might be also captured in various document formats. So once your requirements are fully jotted down and defined, all these requirements are then sent to the stakeholders and the customers so that it can be finalized, and then the designing starts after approval. The next phase is the designing phase. This is a very important phase because in this phase, all requirements are taken into account, and you have all solution and technical architects coming from different areas, and all of them will be involved in designing the most optimal and efficient architecture for your software product. So various data flows, integrations, connections, the module connections, third-party connections, all these are taken into account in order to build your architecture. So in this phase, all software microservices, the modules, constraints such as modularity, reliability, maintenance, etc., all of this is taken into account to build a very comprehensive software architecture. So once all these designs are finalized, all the designs are specified in the DSP, which is called as the design specification document, or it's also called as the design specification program. So once it's finalized, it then moves into the next phase, the building phase. So it's here actually where the software gets built and executed. It's built using high-end programming languages. You have various programming languages depending on what software you require. So based on the software requirements and the software being developed, the programming language is selected. Always keep in mind, not all programming languages are suitable for all products. So depending on the software that you want to develop, make sure you choose the right programming language. So when developing your software, you need to make sure that the code quality, the maintenance of the code, the reliability, etc. must be taken into account. And always make sure that your codes are optimized for better working of your software. The next phase is the testing phase. So in this phase, the developed software is tested for any defects or bugs. So usually the first piece of the product that's being developed and sent for testing, it's a very raw product and it is prone to many defects and bugs. So what happens is when the testing is done, the bugs are then identified and reported to the team after all unit, integration, regression testing, etc. is being performed. So once the bugs are fixed, sanity testing is being carried out again, and it's performed along with other testing methodologies to release a defect-free software. So basically, after you have reported bugs, the sanity testing is being done. So sanity testing is done on a software that has been modified, enhanced, the code has been, modified, extra features have been added, bugs are being fixed. So that type of a product is being taken and sanity testing has been done. So once you have a defect-free software, it's then moved to the next phase. Always make sure that during the testing, all your test cases need to be passed in order for a software to be defect-free. And the next phase is the deployment phase. So in this phase, the final software is either deployed on the cloud or on an on-premise. It can be done on the client's or the customer's environment. So usually the product, when it's released to a specific set of audience rather than the entire market that you have intended to release the product to. So this type of a phase is called as the UAT, which is called as the user acceptance testing. Based on the feedback that you get from the user acceptance testing phase, another round of product tweaking and enhancement is done, and once everything has been incorporated, the product is deployed to the actual intended market and the target audience of your product. Of course, after deployment is done, the team would continue to perform constant and regular support and maintenance to the customer and software respectively, because it's not always after you deploy your product the work and your job is done. Definitely the client and customer might encounter various issues and cases that require support and maintenance by your organization. So that also has been done in this particular phase. So this was a general overview on the SDLC, and I hope it was very informative to you. Thank you, and do share your feedback.